The NBA just got flipped upside down. The most private superstar in basketball history just broke a 10-year silence to crown a new king. Tim Duncan finally spoke up.
Everyone has an opinion on Wemby, but almost nobody knows this.
And he basically called Wemby his favorite player in the league right now. He talked about how special this kid truly is, but it does not stop there. If you think Duncan was just watching from a distance, you are about to miss the biggest takeover happening in basketball right now. Word is leaking from inside the Spurs facility that Tim Duncan ended his time away from the spotlight just because he wants to personally coach Wemby for the finals. The NBA has never seen anything like this before. Everyone knows Duncan spent the last 10 years acting like the NBA did not exist. But then he suddenly showed up front row at the Frost Bank Center in spring 2026 just to watch a 22-year-old French kid break his franchise records, grinning the whole time.
Probably one of the best, in probably a couple hours, I learned more about the NBA than in my whole life before,
This is a man who hates attention so much that he never even gave a real retirement speech in 2016. He just slipped out the back door and disappeared to fix up cars and play paintball. In fact, Greg Popovich told reporters in 2022 that Duncan was done with basketball forever and would probably never come to another game. Pop even stopped trying to get him to practices because Duncan just wanted peace and quiet. But then Victor Wembanyama started breaking Duncan's records, and the man who walked away from the sport suddenly showed up courtside looking like a proud big brother. Top NBA insider Mark Stein just dropped a huge report revealing that Duncan quietly agreed to show up at the Spurs practice facility regularly to go one-on-one with Wemby and pass down everything he knows ahead of the finals. Think about what that actually means. Compared to any superstar in history, nobody came out of retirement for LeBron. Yet the most disciplined champion ever completely changed his retired life just to be around Wemby. And here is where it gets really wild. You will not believe how early this whole passing of the torch actually began behind the scenes. On the very second night after the 2023 draft, Wemby was already sitting at a private dinner with the Mount Rushmore of the Spurs, including Duncan, David Robinson, and Manu Ginobili. Afterward, Wemby told the media that he learned more about the NBA in those few hours than in his entire life before that moment.
A young man doesn't need much. He has the whole package. He's incredible, and he's so mature for being 22.
Even Manu Ginobili went on record after that dinner to say that Wemby already has the whole package, does not need much help, and is way too mature for a 22-year-old. It makes you stop and think about what Tim Duncan, a man who completely walked away from the sport, already knows about this kid that the rest of the world is just now figuring out. Duncan does not do publicity stunts. He does not care about social media. He definitely does not need money or clout from the Spurs. So if he is willingly waking up early to sweat in a gym against a sophomore, it means the talent is flat out undeniable. Duncan sees the future of the franchise in very safe hands. And the most shocking part is that Duncan coming back to the facility sent a huge signal to every old school legend that Wemby is the real deal, which changed how the entire basketball world treats him. Because having the greatest power forward ever in your corner is already insane, but Duncan was just the first one to step up. Every NBA fan assumed Chris Paul was just a short-term fix when he signed that one-year deal back in 2024. The whole media story was that he just wanted a paycheck and an easy exit. But that story falls apart completely when you look at what is leaking from the Spurs right now. Chris Paul is not even under contract anymore, yet he recently showed up at Spurs training just to personally help Wemby get ready for the finals. On June 2nd, Chris Paul sat down for a major interview and casually talked about how easy it is to work with this kid because his brain already moves like a supercomputer.
Just his mentality, right? I think that's why everyone appreciates him. He doesn't say what everybody thinks he's supposed to say. He says his real feelings, his real emotions, and he can do that because he done invested the work.
You need to understand what this actually means. While nearly every other NBA veteran is sitting on a beach somewhere, a man with zero money or contract ties to San Antonio is putting up just for Wemby. And it all starts to make sense when you realize what these old school Hall of Famers discovered about Wemby's real passion for the game.
Most people assume a 22-year-old in his first real playoff run spends his summers on a yacht or playing video games, but Wemby shattered that idea by flying to China for 2 full weeks and isolating himself inside the actual Shaolin Temple. He spent 14 days training with monks to sharpen his balance and mental toughness. But the real mystery kicked off the second his plane landed back in America. He did not even go home to unpack before booking private, unlisted gym sessions with Kevin Garnett and Hakeem Olajuwon. Just think about what this kid is doing behind closed doors before he even finishes his 3rd year in the league. He is out here collecting cheat codes from the most ruthless players to ever touch a basketball. Even Michael Jordan had to rely on whoever his front office hired. Wemby went out and hunted down legendary greatness across 3 continents before most kids his age can even rent a car. That kind of preparation is exactly why he is who he is. The wild twist in all of this is that these legends are not mentoring him to be nice. They're doing it because they see an unstoppable force coming, and they want to be the ones who handed him the keys. Every single era of basketball royalty is bending the rules to pass this kid their secret blueprints. And when you look at how this postseason is playing out, you realize this whole mentorship network is colliding with the exact same year Tim Duncan won his first ring. And it is not just a ring. When you line up the 1999 NBA Finals stats next to this 2026 postseason, it honestly looks like someone just copied and pasted Tim Duncan's file. Back in 1999, a 22-year-old Tim Duncan walked into the finals representing San Antonio against the New York Knicks. Right now, a 22-year-old Victor Wembanyama is standing on that same court, wearing that same jersey, staring down that same team from New York. That is brutal for Knicks fans because they waited nearly 3 decades to get back to the biggest stage only to find another 7-foot beast waiting to ruin everything. But what makes this truly wild is that it's not just a cool storyline. The actual box scores are where this goes from interesting to a full-on simulation. During the 1999 championship run, Tim Duncan averaged 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks while shooting 51% from the field. Right now, in the 2026 playoffs, Wemby is averaging 23.2 points, 10.8 rebounds, and 3.5 blocks while shooting exactly 51%. Same stat line, different eras. And the paths they took to get here make it even crazier. Both had to deal with a physical Minnesota frontcourt, both pushed past Portland, both had to destroy their era's most hyped rival big man. Duncan had to go through prime Shaq, Wemby just spent the Western Conference Finals putting Chet Holmgren in a blender. Now listen to what Spurs legend Sean Elliott just said because it turns this whole story into a horror movie for the rest of the league. Elliott went on record and said Wemby is still just getting started and has not even come close to his real ceiling. Let that sit for a second. If a kid playing at what looks like 40% of his full power is already matching a Hall of Famer stat for stat on a championship run, the rest of the NBA is in serious trouble. And that is the terrifying thought Tim Duncan sits with every time he watches from his front row seat. He is not just watching a great sophomore. He is watching a player who might make every record in basketball history look small before he even turns 25. That ceiling is exactly why the mentorship has shifted from court skills to something way more personal and emotional. Duncan is handling the physical side in the gym, but the most important voice in this whole journey is coming from the shadows. Everyone thinks Greg Popovich is totally out of the picture during this intense playoff run, but that could not be more wrong. What most fans do not know is that Pop is running a full NBA Finals masterclass through text messages while recovering from a serious medical emergency away from the team. Everyone in the media expected the Spurs to fall apart the second Pop stepped back, but the exact opposite happened. His connection with Wemby has become the most emotional coaching relationship we have ever seen in modern sports. Wemby revealed in a recent post-game press conference that he talks to Pop every single day before and after games. Whether it's a quick text or a late-night phone call, Popovich is watching every detail from his couch and constantly messaging Wemby to slow down, play off 2 feet, and stop rushing his reads against the Knicks defense. It's honestly unreal when you think about it. Pop coached Tim Duncan to 5 rings over 2 decades. Now he's building a brand new dynasty through a smartphone screen. But you won't believe what popped up on Wemby's phone right after Game 1 of these finals. Most coaches would try to protect the 22-year-old's confidence on the biggest stage of his life, but Pop completely skipped the soft talk. Wemby told reporters that Pop texted him a brutal message saying he played like garbage and that he is way better than what he showed. That's old school tough love you simply do not see in today's NBA, and that explains exactly why this kid treats Pop like a legendary figure and not just another coach. Right after the Spurs clinched the Western Conference Finals, Wemby could barely get his words out at the podium because he was so emotional. He told the room that Pop has more basketball wisdom than almost anyone alive, that he's dealing with real struggles most people cannot even imagine, and that the very first thing he had to do before celebrating was pick up the phone and call him. This whole thing draws a wild comparison to how Phil Jackson used to work with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, but this version feels so much heavier because of what's actually at stake. And that brings us to the real question. How is he handling all of this pressure? A reporter asked Wemby directly what it feels like to carry the expectations of a 5-time champion like Tim Duncan while trying to win a ring at 22. And he looked straight into the camera and said this.
I wouldn't say wait, no. I would say it feels safe. Feels like if you trip, there's a lot of hands that are ready to catch you.
That exact mindset is what he brought into a meeting with Nike executives a year ago. Everyone online loves to talk about how humble and quiet this kid seems in post-game interviews, but behind closed doors, he has that same unhinged, fearless confidence that made Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant absolute forces of nature. A full year before he even smelled the playoff game, Wemby sat across from top Nike executives and told them straight to their faces that he is not giving basketball a choice about who the next face of the league will be. The guts it takes to say something like that before winning a single playoff series is wild. It is the same energy MJ and Larry Bird had back in the day, when they would talk about taking over the world and then go out and drop 50 on somebody. And look, no disrespect, but Giannis and Jokic both had the talent to be the undisputed face of the NBA, but they basically stepped back from that role. Jokic would rather be home in Serbia with his horses than on a press circuit. Wemby actually wants the crown. He is hunting for it and telling the world nobody will stop him. This is the most Jordan-coded thing a young player has said since the teenage Kobe walked into a gym and told veterans he was going to surpass them all. But talking big is one thing. Backing it up with real character is what truly sets his kid apart. Most teenagers who grow up without money see a 7-figure contract and immediately lose their minds. But when Wemby was a teenager earning $150,000 with his French club, he was already turning down millions from massive soda and skincare brands. His agent, Jeremy Mediata, has been clear that they will never put Victor's image on something like Coca-Cola because he does not want to harm kids. He is so serious about this that he refuses to sit down for post-game press conferences until sponsored Gatorade bottles are cleared off the table. One time he literally threw them under the desk and shouted because he refuses to be seen drinking something he does not actually believe in. Instead, he took an ownership stake in Barcode, a low-key plant-based drink with zero added sugar. Looking at the history of this league, this is a complete flip from the blueprint a player like LeBron James used to build his legacy. LeBron made a huge portion of his early career money through big deals with Sprite and McDonald's, essentially selling the exact products driving the childhood obesity crisis. A public health researcher at Columbia University actually ran the numbers and found that LeBron's marketing campaigns pushed over 1 billion spoonfuls of sugar to his young fan base. So when people say Wemby is built different, they do not just mean the 7'4" frame and the 30-foot pull-up jumper. They mean he is leaving 9 figures on the table to protect the kids who watch him, which shows he wants to actually represent something real rather than just cash in. Long before American media caught on, Wemby's agent sat him down as a teenager and laid out a clear blueprint for reaching the very top of basketball history. It was not about winning a couple MVPs or landing a max contract. It was a straight reality check. If he truly wants to be the undisputed greatest of all time, he needs 7 championship rings, one more than Michael Jordan. From day one, this kid's target was never LeBron or Jokic. He has been going after the all-time greats like Jordan and Duncan. That goal of chasing Jordan's 6 rings is exactly why the media tried so hard to push a fake feud between the old school and the new generation.
KG went on his podcast and claimed that Duncan and Wemby didn't even get along, pushing this narrative that Duncan was avoiding the kid, and that is why Wemby went to KG for training instead.
They don't even get along. They ain't even working. That joint don't even come together. David Robinson is outdated. Ain't no grace in there teaching him. So he got to come to the wax. He got to come to the wax.
Then the second the Spurs clinched the Western Conference Finals, KD completely flipped and publicly mocked Wemby on social media for showing real emotion and crying on the court after the buzzer.
Go through some bullshit. He's crying in motherfucking Western Conference Finals. That was too emotional for that to be, that was too emotional for me.
But the math does not add up. While KG was chasing viral moments online, a completely silent Tim Duncan was sitting front row at every single game with a huge smile on his face. Wemby already shut down that whole narrative earlier in the season when he told reporters that players today hide their real feelings out of fear of being judged, and he flat out refuses to carry that burden just to satisfy people on the internet. That exact fearlessness is precisely why Tim Duncan came out to support this kid publicly. Duncan built a 5-ring Hall of Fame career without ever selling out to sponsors or begging for attention, and he sees that same unbothered spirit inside Wemby. After a big game in New York, Wemby posted online asking where the best chess spots in the city were, and by 9:30 the very next morning, on a cold, rainy Saturday, he was sitting on a bench at Washington Square Park playing chess against total strangers. No cameras arranged, no PR team, no shoe deal attached. Just a kid sitting in the rain, getting humbled by local chess players and laughing about it because he genuinely wanted to get better. Think about the last time a modern NBA superstar did something purely to improve themselves, with no brand deal involved. It almost never happens anymore. Duncan saw that pure love for the game and knew the franchise was finally in the right hands. Wemby turning down millions to protect kids, hunting down retired legends for their secrets, and running his own race on his own terms is the most Duncan-coded behavior the NBA has seen since Duncan himself was drafted back in 1997. Which leaves one final wild reality check the rest of the league is hoping you do not think about. Is Wemby already playing on Tim Duncan's legendary level? And if he closes out this series and wins that championship ring, is the conversation about the greatest sophomore season in basketball history already over?